It's finally here. The Rednecks of Clemson versus the Hillbillies of Kentucky. This Friday, December the 29th, 12 o'clock on ESPN. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. I am Brian. I'm glad you're here. I hope you subscribe. It's free and it's easy. Before I go any farther, I want to apologize for the way I look and even I sound. I had the flu starting last week, and it's been pretty rough. So if my eyes still kind of look like, oh, man. Yeah, it is what it is. And I apologize for any coughing. I held off as long as I possibly could, but the game is just a couple of days. So I'm glad you're here. Now, I'm not going to hit you with a ton of numbers. You're probably numbers out right now. Between having to hear about transfer portal numbers, recruiting rankings, how many number of bowl games we have left, number so versus this, that, and the other playing each other in the playoff, you're numbered out. So I will try to be as concise as possible, yet still give you some rankings, but try to give you an overall reason of why I believe that this game will have different motivations. Now, Clemson is a 4-point favorite coming in this game. When the line opened up on the initial announcement, Clemson was a 7-point favorite. Now, of course, having guys like Jeremiah Trotter and Nate Wiggins opt out, and we wish them the very best. Losing guys like that, that's a big deal. I know Rook's leaving. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. I've coughed enough. Now, on the Kentucky side, they've had some guys who's going to opt out. Just a few of them, but most of their major talent is available. Both teams have transfer portal players, but none that I saw that was going to majorly impact the game concerning the transfer portal. So, let's talk about the defense for both teams. Clemson is ranked number 7 right now in total defense. Kentucky is ranked number 43 total defense. Now, I'm going to extend an olive branch. They did have to play Georgia. They had to play a couple other teams that were tough. Let's pause there. They didn't have to get blown out, though, but they did, especially by Georgia. But so I kind of give them some grace there. Clemson's schedule, it might have not been as tough as Kentucky's, but it was nothing to sneeze at. So with that said, Kentucky and Clemson, they're very similar in their rushing defense rankings. So someone told me that Kentucky was really good against the run, so I looked it up. Clemson and Kentucky are ranked number 26 and number 27 in rush defense. So that'll be interesting to see. Now let's talk about both offenses. Clemson is ranked number 49 offense and then literally being doubled. Kentucky is ranked number 98 in total offense. Yeah, number 98. Now, when you consider both of these teams, you consider guys like Devin Leary for Kentucky. You think about Ray Davis. And then I want to say that on the defensive side, you have that Hairston kid. I think he's like 6'1", sophomore. He's had like 5 interceptions. He's a scrappy cornerback. And they have some strong players across the line, a couple of them with 4 and 5 sacks. So you have to respect that Kentucky, they're not just going to lay down and die when Maffa and Shipley try to run the football against them. Now let's pause right there. Running, the offensive line. I know that Matt Luke, he came on at Clemson, but he's barely been there, a month, if that? So I don't expect to see anything major out of our offensive line. I really don't. I think that would be kind of like unrealistic expectations at this point. So I just expect Clemson to try to simplify the offensive line scheme to try to just move the ball, create just small enough or just lanes long enough for Phil Maffa and Will Shipley to try to bust through. But if I'm Kentucky, I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I would try to put the game on Cade Klubnik's shoulders. Now remember, Bo Collins, one of our big wide receivers for the past few years, he's hit the transfer portal. He's not with Clemson. So we're missing a 6'3" target. I know he had some drops this year, but don't discount what he's done at Clemson over the past few years. So that is still a big loss. Last I heard, Antonio Williams will be playing this game unless something crazy happens. So we can look at Kentucky and ask ourselves, are we really impressed with Devin Leary's play at this point? Now, maybe Kentucky fans are. Maybe they're happy with it. But quite honestly, everything that I've seen, I haven't been blown away by his numbers. I haven't been blown away by his play. So let me talk about that for a second. Devin Leary was 193 of 343, 2,440 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Their leading wide receiver has 38 receptions, 553 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's Dane Key. Now, this guy, he's 6'3", about 200 pounds. He's got that lanky frame. He'll go up, he'll get the football on you. So they do have the talent to get the football to him. And of course, they're going to be playing against a lot of our youth. In fact, Kentucky fans, if you're watching this, and if anybody who's not a Clemson fan and doesn't pay attention to Clemson football consistently, Clemson's major turnaround really happened when Clemson beat Notre Dame, but a lot of freshmen were on the field for the defense. The emergence of the likes of Khalil Barnes coming out and wearing it out for the last third of the season. He's a freshman. Avion Terrell, former Clemson player, A.J. Terrell's brother, he's been doing quite well. And then there's a few others who are playing for us who they're freshmen as well. And they're playing better than guys who are seniors and grad students that's been around the program for a while. So I do expect Kentucky to go after these guys, but I don't believe these guys are going to lay down and die. Now, if we want to look at some of the statistics of other players, I'll make this very, very fast. Tavion Robinson is another wide receiver. Has 4 touchdowns, over 500 yards receiving, and Barry Brown, 439 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, guys to pay attention to for Kentucky, and then I'm going to get into something else here, and then I'm going to close this sucker down. For Kentucky, remember Maxwell Hairston, I mentioned him a second ago. He's a defensive back with 5 interceptions. You have to remember Trevin Wallace. Trevin Wallace will enter the draft this year, but he is playing the game. He's a linebacker with 4.5 sacks. And you have Deion Walker. He's a defensive lineman with 5.5 sacks as well. J.J. Weaver, the linebacker, I do think that he hit the transfer portal. Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe it was Keaton Wade that hit the transfer portal. So Kentucky has the players to come in and play. Kentucky has the ability to make this extremely competitive. But I want to give you my biggest key to this ball game, and it's motivation. What motivation does one team have versus the other? Let me explain. Last year, Clemson was playing the Orange Bowl. The year before that, they were playing the Cheez-It Bowl, and that was a bad bowl for us. I mean, Clemson went, 10-3 that year? But it was still a bad bowl. We're shocked. We hadn't lost 3 games in forever. But before that, Clemson was in the college football playoff for 6 consecutive years. When was Clemson's last Gator Bowl? When was Clemson's last Gator Bowl appearance? 2009, the baby years of Dabo Swinney. They lost to Bo Pelini in Nebraska. When was Kentucky's last Gator Bowl? January 2021 against NC State. See, Kentucky has had some success with Mark Stoops. Kentucky is not an easy place to coach for a couple of reasons. A, it's in the SEC. And B, Kentucky is a historically great basketball school. So while they've put a lot of money into Mark Stoops, the truth is they're still not expecting probably the same amount of success as, say, a Clemson is expecting now because, history. This is a good bowl game for Kentucky. This is a game that they would love to come out and play a former elite team. Ooh, I just hit a button with some of you. How dare I say Clemson's not elite anymore? Well, if Clemson were elite, they would not be playing in the Gator Bowl. Trust me, I don't like that either. But Clemson has a bigger uphill battle emotionally for this ball game. Now, of course, if you walked up to them, and I'm talking about Clemson, you walked up to a player, you walked up to a coach, and you stuck a microphone in their face for all to see and hear and replay over and over and over their words. You asked them if they were motivated to play this game. Like good church boys, they would say yes. And they would give you some of the finest lines crafted by a PR team. And even some of us would believe them. But I'm a human being, and I know that people who has attained great success and then suddenly it's no longer there, they find it very hard to be motivated by a game like this. I think this is the biggest key to the game. Will Clemson be motivated? This season has been terrible. It has been up and down emotionally. And quite frankly, it's been embarrassing for me to sit and watch some of the stuff go on off the field. So, with all of that said, Kentucky has every motivation in the world to come in and not only win a bowl game that would be good in their sight, but to be a former elite team that just happens to be from the ACC. Now, here's my prediction for the game. I believe that Kentucky is going to play their hearts out. I believe that Clemson has their work cut out for them for all the previous stated reasons. I believe that if Kentucky's smart, they'll try to put the game on Cade's shoulders and they'll pressure him over and over and over. I just believe our defense is that good, even missing guys like Jeremiah Trotter, even missing guys like Nate Wiggins, because we have a lot of freshman talent who's been playing throughout the season, who, quite frankly, that's the reason that we had the turnaround that we had. I call Clemson winning this ball game 27-24. 27-24. I think it's a close ball game. I think that some of that freshman, some of the youth in the Clemson defense might give away a play or two here or there. That's why Kentucky would get a few more scores. But I do think that we're going to batter them with our rushing attack. And I do think that our rushing attack is going to get a little more than what maybe Kentucky's expecting. Kentucky could win this ball game based off of their motivation or Clemson's lack thereof. But I call our Tigers win this ball game 27-24. And it'll be a very interesting ball game. Hey, I want to hear your thoughts. Leave in the comments section. Let me know. Who do you think wins this ball game? If you don't mind, throw in there why. Please don't put in there just because we're Clemson, we're all in. Yeah, that's not a reason. I mean, it is, but it's a bad one. So let me know what you think. I hope you subscribe. It's free, and it is the easiest way to support the channel. Folks, even in the bad days, we had a lot of good ones, didn't we? Even in the bad days, it's always good to be a Tiger. As always, go Tigers.